looking at the rules. Rule, wave 2 never traces more than 100% of wave 1. What does that mean? Well, let's just say that we're here at the beginning, and you see this kind of impulsive move up. So let's just go to a slightly lower time frame. Here, it's a 4-hour time frame. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, wow, look at this. This is impulsive. Look how the price has moved up. Oh my God, impulse, impulse, impulse. Is that wave 1? Could be. Yeah, could be. Could be wave 1. But how do you know it's not? Well, the reason why you know it's not wave 1 is because wave 2 has extended more than wave 1. You see the wave 2 comes all the way down to here. So the first rule that's important is that if that's the starting point and that's your wave 1, then wave 2 can't come underneath the starting point. Yeah, it can come higher, but it can't come underneath. So that's really important. Okay, so that resets the count. That invalidates this whole idea of this being a wave 1. Okay, maybe this is the wave 1. That could happen. That could be, maybe that's the wave 1. Okay, but this is not the wave 1. You know what's not, because the price has moved underneath the starting point. And that's basically this first rule. That's what this is saying. See that? Start, go wave 1, then wave 2 can't come underneath the start. So that's the first rule. You learn that, then that will help, because you know now that there's a rule that can't be broken. Yeah, if it's broken, then you have to reset the count. You have to start over. This is another rule. Wave 3 cannot be the shortest of the 3 impulses. Okay, this is just based on observations that he made, and he created these rules, and those rules are applicable. And so when you're looking at this, you can kind of see 5 waves, can't you? Look at that. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, some sort of wave 4 here, and then you have a wave 5. You see that? Now, let me just mark that out correctly so you can see what I'm talking about. That's your 1. This is your 2, somewhere here. I don't know where the start is. I'm taking it to the low, but it doesn't have to be the low. It could be, usually the correction ends when the impulse begins. So while you might put it down here, it might be here. That's why you have to count. You have to count the waves. Okay, so let's say it's there. This is your wave 3. Again, it's the same idea. You have to count the waves. Yeah, you need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have some kind of correction here. And then you have your final impulse there, right? So that rule, that second rule, is that wave 3 can't be the shortest. And that's the same for every impulsive move. Yeah. So when you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this wave, this middle wave, can't be the shortest. It just can't be the shortest. Okay, so that's not my rules, someone else's. What that means is that if you get price action where this 1 is actually longer, yeah, and 3 is shorter, that means 5 has to be shorter than 3. Has to be. In this circumstances, it didn't need to be shorter. So you can see 3 is clearly longer than 1. So therefore the 5 could have been much longer. Yeah. It just tells you what how the 5 is restricted. So if you have 3 shorter than 1, then 5 can't be longer than 3. It has to be shorter. But if 3 is longer than 1, then 5 can be longer. Yeah, so 5 is unrestricted as long as 3 is in the middle. If 3 is the shortest, then 5 has to be shorter. That's basically how it works. Yeah, if you suddenly see a 3 and it's shorter than 1, then you know the 5 has to be shorter. But if you see 3 bigger than 1, then you know that 5 can be bigger. It can be anything. Yeah, effectively, as long as the 3 is not the shortest, 5 can be as big as it wants. Yeah, so sometimes when you get really crazy 5s, it's because you had really rubbish 1, slightly bigger 3, and then you get this crazy 5. Okay, in this case it looks as though the 3 is the biggest. Yeah, so even though 5 is bigger than the 1, 3 is the biggest. That's fine. If 3 can't be the smallest, that's the rule. Okay, so that's kind of explained like this here. Okay, and this is the other rule. Wave 4 does not cross the final point of 1. What does that mean? Well, let me explain it. You see here you've got the 0 point to the 1 down to the 2. Well, because now we've put in a 1, there's your 1. Yeah. Now 4 can't come underneath the 1. Yeah. Now in crypto, you're going to get these kind of this kind of shit, which may put you off, which may make you think, wait, this isn't validated, but it's not. Okay. It's not. In crypto, you get a little bit of overextension. You get wicks, a lot of wicks. What you're really looking at are higher time frame closes. That will help you. That will help you a lot. You see here, if you look at the closes and the daily time frame, you see actually it doesn't come underneath the 1. Do you see that? So when in crypto, even though the extension is to the end of the wick, when it comes to this rule, specifically this rule, which is that the 4, wherever the 4 comes, it can't come underneath. And potentially that is your wave 4 did end there. I haven't really gone into depth, but you see, no, actually it can't be there. It could be there. But anyway, whatever, the 4 can't come underneath the 1. That's the rule. Yeah. So if you look at this, once you put in the top of the 1, yeah, Gary. Oh, waffles. Once you put in the 1, you put in the 2, you go up to the 3, then the 4, you see here, it can't come underneath the top of the 1. So on Myro the dog, if this 4 had come all the way down to here, guess what? This wasn't the 3. Yeah. This wasn't the 3. Or no, that can't be the 3 then. This because then this can't be the 4, because the top of the peak of the 4 can't come underneath the 1. That's the rule. Okay. If it did this, then what you're probably looking at is the 0 starting here and not here. Yeah. And then if this correction came all the way down to here instead of where it did, then you could reanalyze, and then you can go, okay, maybe actually this is where the impulse begins, and this one is actually my 2, not my 4. So we haven't had the 3 and the 4 and the 5 yet. Yeah, because you've broken a rule. Once that you break the rules, everything changes. Yeah, so you analyze it until the rules are applicable, and until once the rules are broken, then you know that's not correct, and then you have to reevaluate, and you have to go back and have a look and see what else is happening. Okay, and so effectively this is the rule. The 4 cannot come underneath the 1. There has to be like a horizontal line. It could come higher up. The 4 can go to there, but it just can't come to there. Okay, so once you have these rules, there's a couple of other things to bear in mind, which they probably don't talk about. Okay, effectively these impulsive waves, the 1, the 3 and the 5, they also are constructed of 5 waves. Yeah, so you have this whole thing is an impulsive 5 wave. This whole thing from the 0 to this 5, this whole thing is a 1 wave, is wave 1. Yeah, so when you're looking at these Elliott waves, they're all subsets of each other. So now that we have our 5 waves here, you can actually go from here to there. That's your wave 1. Now we're in a wave 2, some sort of wave 2, and you're looking for a wave 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can change the color there, and there's a naming convention which I don't bother with because I don't really see the point. But if you go to different websites, they'll say that you can change it to numeric Roman numerals and stuff to kind of identify the grandchildren and the different layers and levels. I'm not really fussed. But look, now what we can do is we can start trying to predict the future. Yeah. If that is the top of our wave one, why is that wave one? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we know that the next impulsive wave, if it's a wave 3, we know that the 4 cannot come underneath the 1. See that? So we have a rule. We have these rules which help us to find good places to buy and sell based on the waves and the way that the waves are moving and the counting of the waves. So now I don't know whether if this 2 is finished or not. I can't tell. It's a lot easier to look back and tell than to try and preempt the future. Could that be impulsive? It could be. There was a little impulse here. I don't think so, but it could be, because I can see here the impulses are really green, 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 like really impulsive. I'm not seeing that kind of crazy impulse yet. It could be, though. It could be the beginning of the impulse. And then you just have to count, yeah? And so the other thing to do is to count the corrective waves. And so while the impulsive waves are 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'd be expecting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The corrective waves can be a combination of different types of corrections, okay? And there's quite a few, and you don't necessarily have to memorize them, but you should know some of them. And so just have a look at the corrective patterns. Effectively, there's 3 that you should be looking at. Let me see if I can just find an image. It'll be easier. Not really. Maybe this one. Nope. This has got 6. Oh my god, it's a video. Probably a boring one. Not as boring as mine. Let me have a look at this one. 6 corrective. That's YouTube. Well, what's he saying? He's saying zigzag, flat, irregular, horizontal, triangle, double 3, triple 3. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I just know that it's basically flat, some sort of zigzag, or some sort of A, B, C, D, E in a triangle. Yeah. And everything is a combination of those things. That's kind of the way I look at it. Now they've got double 3 and triple 3. Effectively, what that is a XWY, a combination of ABC. So ABC, 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 ABC. That's basically what he's saying. He's saying here it could be ABC, ABC, X, ABC. And here he's saying it could be ABC, basically ABC, ABC, or a combination of those. Zigzag is when it's quite steep. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at that and you're going, well, this is quite steep. It could potentially, this is probably some sort of zigzag. Yeah, you could probably count lots of ABCs there. This is quite steep too. Got a couple of steep corrections. This is probably some kind of zigzag too. And maybe we're seeing some kind of zigzag here as well. I'm not seeing many flat corrections here. Flat corrections are the easiest ones to see because they're just flat. So effectively with a flat correction, the price literally it just goes sideways. It just literally goes. A good way to see a flat correction is arrow. If I can find it. Just hide all this stuff. You see, you had this kind of some sort of impulsive wave. It's terribly difficult to see, but there's some sort of flat. It's probably started here, actually, looking at it. Probably started here. And what you've got here is a flat correction. This is a flat correction. You've probably got here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some 5 waves in that impulsive move. And then here you've got some kind of flat correction. Could even be an A, B, C, D, E. Could even be like an A, B, C, D, E triangle, which is kind of flat too. Okay. Then you have your impulse, etc. I mean, this is not typical because this is extremely bullish. And so with these bullish corrections, like you see this one, this is correcting here. So let me just mark it out. So you see, let's say 1, 2, 3. You have to count, that's the thing. This whole thing is flat and then that. So let me just mark this out. Probably 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe up to there. You can tweak these afterwards. It's good to just take a guess and then try and tweak it. And then here you see you've got to count 5 waves. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that doesn't work. Maybe 1, 2, 3. Could potentially up to there, actually. And so when you're looking at these corrections, you're looking at that and you're going, okay, that's quite impulsive. This is some kind of flat correction. See that? They're the nicest ones because you get higher lows or whatever, and it kind of the price goes sideways and then it goes up. And then effectively 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5. That's quite flat too, huh? It's actually not flat. That's a zigzag. Yeah, it looks flat, but it's not because you're kind of zigging downwards. Yeah. And so what happens with these kind of Elliott waves is that usually of the impulsive waves, so let's go back to which one was I looking at before? I can't remember. Whiff, wasn't it? It was whiff. What you usually get, and this is not a rule, this is just an observation, yeah, is so this is not right. That's the macro. Okay, so that's, where's my other one? Because this is Binance. I was looking at that on Next, wasn't I? No, it wasn't. It was Myro. I was looking at Myro. Sorry. That's why I'm going wrong. I just went to the wrong one. Where's Myro? There you are. So what usually happens, and this is not a rule, this is just an observation, is that one of the impulsive extensions, impulsive moves, is usually the most extended. Yeah. So if in the context of this 5 waves, if you have a weak one, then you'd be expecting the 3 or the 5 to be much more impulsive. Yeah. And also, if the first one is a zigzag, then the next correction is usually some kind of flat. Or if the first correction, if the 2 is a flat, the next one is some kind of zigzag, or they just won't be the same. Usually they're not the same. Yeah. So if you have a 2 correction that's like this, the 4 is not going to be the same as the 2. Usually they're different, and that's just something that usually happens. And so if you see in an after impulsive move, you see a flat correction, then the next correction, which is the 4, you're not expecting flat. you'd be expecting something else, probably zigzag. That would be your default go-to. If it's not flat, then it's zigzag. If it's not zigzag, then you'll be looking for either flat or some kind of irregular or some kind of combination or something else. Yeah. But if you already have a zigzag in a 2, then for the 4, you won't necessarily be looking for a zigzag. You'll be looking for something else. Yeah. You don't expect the corrections to repeat from the 2 to the 4. You'd be looking for, like, probability wise, you'll be looking for something different. And then the other thing to bear in mind is that once you have your first 5 impulses, that's your wave 1. Then you'll be looking for a corrective move, some kind of ABC something to correct. Yeah. And then you'll be looking for your next impulse. Yeah. And so the next impulse, which is your wave 3, will also be 5 waves wherever it begins. I don't know when it started. I can't tell right now, but let's just say it's already started. Hypothetically, you'll be looking at 1, 2, again 3, 4, 5. Now, these subsets, these waves have to follow exactly the same rules. They all have to follow the same rules. So in the same way, when you impulse, the 2 can't come underneath the 0 point, same rules. Yeah. And then the 3 can't be the shortest. Okay. Has to be at least the second biggest. And then exactly the same thing. The 4 can't come underneath the 1. Okay. And that's, you can apply that continuously. That would be your third wave, combination of 5 waves. You can count these. Yeah, that's why they're so useful. You can count. And so it's good to change the colors so you can see. And I'm just making this up, obviously. This is all speculative, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. Okay. Then you have one more correction. That will be your higher time frame 4. Exactly the same rules. The 4 can't come underneath the 1. You've put in a 1 here, right? You've had your 5 waves, your 3 impulsive and 2 corrective waves to take you into higher prices. Now the 4 can correct. It could be flat. It doesn't have to be deep. It could be like there. But it can't come underneath there. That's your line in the sand for this whole thing to be correct. And then you have your wave 5. As long as the wave 3 is not the shortest, this yellow wave 3 is not the shortest, then the wave 5 can be as big as you want. Yeah. If the wave 3 is shorter than the wave 1, then this 5 has to be shorter than the 3. Has to be. Okay. So it helps, because if suddenly you see there's a 5 waves and the wave 3 actually ends up to be kind of mediocre or meh, yeah, like that. Let's say that happens. You get like some kind of price action like that. This is speculative. I don't know. I'm just making this up, but I'm just showing you the waves. If that happens, you can clearly see that the 3 is shorter than the 1. So therefore, you'd expect a correction for the 4. And then you know that the 5 can't be bigger than the 3. So it gives you some restrictions on how much to expect the next wave. Usually if you get a situation like this where you have weaker waves, where the first one is the most extended, in this case the first one is the most extended, it's like 4,000% increase in value. Yeah, I'm not expecting the 3 to be a 4,000% increase in value wherever it ends up. I am expecting the 3 to be shorter. This is for Myro the dog, and so therefore I would be expecting the 5 to be subpar, sub-mediocre. And so effectively what I'd be expecting on this, just looking at it right now, I'm expecting kind of like this, you know, some kind of curved top and weaker waves. Each one is going to be a weaker wave, and that's just based on this theory. But you do count, so count, and that's really important. Count your waves, count your corrective waves, and often you'll find is that they are timed as well. They all work and move in time. All right, did that help? That was quite a long drawn explanation of Elliott waves. Maybe I'll cut it up and I'll put it in a little bit, because maybe some people will find that useful. I don't know if that was helpful. The thing about Elliott waves is you always have to reanalyze, and it's quite subjective where to start, where to end counting the waves. And also the other thing to bear in mind is while I'm just contemplating bullish scenario, this is a bullish scenario, there's usually also a bearish count in play with Elliott waves. And so while I see these 5 waves up, I'm thinking bullish, okay? But there always is a bearish count as well. Usually, not always, but usually always is some kind of bearish count. The reason why is because some of these waves coincide with each other. So you have like a wave 1, yeah, it will coincide with like you'll have a 1, 2, 3, some sort of 1, 2, 3. It could coincide with some sort of ABC correction. And so you'll be thinking, oh, wow, look, this is impulsive. This is going to the moon, whatever. But actually, you're still correcting. You're still correcting, and you don't know until instead of doing a 4-5 for continuation, you end up doing a you continue the ABC with another ABC, yeah. You start ending up with lots of ABCs, and then while you're expecting a 4-5, you're not getting a 4-5, you're getting an ABC, an AB, and then also when you see that, you'll see, oh, wait a minute, this is now breaking my Elliott waves. Now it's breaking the rules. And then you have to think to yourself, well, if it's breaking the rules, that means we're not in an impulsive move, because impulsive moves have rules. 4 can't come underneath the 1, the 3 can't be the shortest, etc. And then when you see these corrections, you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought we were impulsing, but we're breaking the rules. Well, actually, you're not impulsing. You're actually still correcting. And instead of putting 5 waves, you're still putting 3 waves, ABCs. Yeah. Instead of forming some kind of, you were thinking maybe we impulsed out of here, but actually maybe the correction is a little bit more regular, and you're still putting corrective waves. And that could continue for a while. That doesn't have to end. The correction ends when the correction ends, but you still have to follow the Elliott wave rules. So if you're in a 1 and then you put in a 2, you put in a 3, then you can't, the 4 can't come underneath the 1. Okay, that's just the rules. If you are impulsing and you are correcting, technically this 2, technically, if we're not impulsing now, I don't know, I can't tell, but technically this 2 can come all the way down here. Technically, this would not be incorrect, and this whole thing could be, you know, this could happen. You could form some kind of higher time frame correction here, lots of ABCs, and this would still be correct, because then the next wave would be your wave 3 and 4 and then 5. You know, technically that could still be very correct. Then you would be having an impulsive, a really extended 3. It would be more extended than the 1 if that was to happen. But this is perfectly acceptable too. Yeah. So that's why you have to count. That's why it helps to count. All right. And so naturally you see me look at